My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
BooBaes.
Hi.
Hello and welcome to
BooBaes.
BooBaes. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about
Insidious, Chapter 2.
A less of a shithole movie.
The continuation of the Insidious franchise.
I liked it more.
You did? Okay, yay. I was honestly nervous. I'm coming up. I'm like, I was thinking maybe watch her hate it even more, you know?
Yeah, No, I didn't. I think it definitely improved. And I saw, it was interesting to watch it and see how they were trying to incorporate a lot of like the found footage aspect that was in it.
Yeah. Oh, which you love.
Yeah.
Of course.
And
with,
seeing
Josh's old videos.
Yeah. And seeing, and when they were in the house.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Because we had that first person POV shaky cam going inside Parker Crane's house.
Pretty spooky house.
Yeah. And pretty, I mean, no wonder Parker Crane's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's like
poor guy. I mean,
a metaphor for being trans.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And then also
your parents won't allow you to be who you're meant to be.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And then also just the abuse.
Yeah.
From that level of from Mother of Death, Mother Morticia or whatever how it was.
Morza or something.
But yeah, it's I really also enjoy how we segue from Insidious Chapter 1 to, you know, right into the storyline continuing, like literally like day after.
Yeah.
With mom being interrogated. Or no, I'm sorry.
We open with the Lambert residence in 1986.
Yes, but how the story continues.
Yeah,
right
whenever it does get into that.
But yes, we open up with the Lamberts residence. It's 1986, and we get to see a young Elaine, and we meet
Lorraine.
Elise. I'm sorry.
Oh,
a young Elise, a younger Elise. Yeah. And then young Lorraine, and then Carl.
Yeah. Elise.
My phone, for some reason, in my notes corrected Elise to Elaine.
Oh,
there we go.
I will say, I didn't. I feel like Elise's voice didn't match.
They put it over the girl.
Yeah, it didn't match her. And people typically like her voice sounded like an older lady's.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't my favorite bit. Like, I feel like they could have just had that girl talk normal, and I would have still believed that it was Elise.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
That's just like one of the.
It's almost a bit comical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like we can 100% tell that this is dubbed
supposed
over.
to be Elise, and this is not her actual speaking voice. It felt foreign coming out of her. Like watching her lips move.
That's true. And it's because we already know whose voice that is. So it's just like, that's not your voice. That's not supposed to be sounding like that. And you're right. Our voices do age with us over time. So it just would have made more sense for them to just have allowed her to just speak naturally. Yeah. Watch her have been Australian and she couldn't shake the accent.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's casting. But like I will say, she did look like a younger Elise in the face. Yeah. Like she really did, to me at least.
Yeah, she had the same long kind of face.
And so we're looking at the pictures because essentially Carl and Lorraine were working together first, and Carl was dealing with something that he felt like was actually scaring him and that was out of his hands, and so he called Elise to come over and help with the case of Josh, who has been being ghostly terrorized by the Black Bride.
Yeah. The Black Bride.
Which is, I really like what they did with that character too, because they really like switch it up.
Yeah. With it being Parker.
Instead of thinking like of some old hag lady.
Yeah.
And so
it definitely added a creep level to it.
Yeah. And not only just like a person, but like a serial killer.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, but we have them looking at the pictures, and Elise you can tell that she's like looking concerned, but it's funny how she like then comes up and like looks at Lorraine and is like,
let me meet your son.
Where's Josh? I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah.
Which kind of reminds me of how she is in the first one, whenever she's like all hunky-dory trying to talk to them, you know, when she first
she's trying to keep the spirits light and
probably not trying to freak out the parents, because this is like a dire situation.
Yeah. Yeah, she was probably trying to keep the cool and just be like, oh shit, this is a really bad thing that I'm seeing, and trying to not let mom freak out more.
And immediately we start to go into her trying to do a hypnosis, essentially, right, with Josh.
Yeah, they're interviewing him at first and just trying to figure out the situation, and they do it all on camera, which comes in handy for later. But he's just saying, like, you know, he has bad dreams sometimes, and that, you know, he sometimes like sees things, and then that's when they're like, okay, well, let me put you under. And then she does, and she hypnotizes him again, basically, with the metronome and everything, to send him into the further.
She starts talking to him, asking him questions, and then we start to play a game that she calls hot and cold, which we all kind of know when we're kids, you know. You have your eyes closed, or you're trying to find something and someone's telling you if you're hot or cold. And so I believe she's asking him like where the spirit or where that person was coming from that was talking to him, right?
Yeah, because he had said like, she's here, she visits me every night kind of thing. And she was like, okay, well, where is she in the house? And she has like a little rudimentary kind of walkie-talkie system going, and Carl's like holding the walkie-talkie up to Josh's face as he's like saying you're getting warmer or colder, which I guess he's in the further, like walking around with her.
I'm not sure
or something,
how that
or
kind of
he's like
worked, or if
got
he's just
special powers, or he has a sense. I don't know.
I think there's a lot to be explained with the further and how that works.
Yeah,
and how sometimes you can be like, because he's not, you would think like he would just be walking next to her or something, or we would see that, but he just seems to be like under like a trance and just there. But he, you know, she's getting colder, she's getting hotter, and then she starts to get hotter, and then he's like, you know, you can tell he's visibly scared and shaken, and then she comes to the closet. And that's whenever she starts to go in there, and it like bites her, like does something to her.
I think it scratches
her, right?
Scratches her down her arm.
Yeah. And so that's whenever she gets spooked herself, and then she comes down and she starts to tell his mom, Lorraine, that whatever this being is it's malignant, right?
Yeah, she says, I've never felt a more malignant being. And not only is this thing a parasite and it's attached to him, it wants to be him. And which is terrifying. Going back just a little bit, all the long shots through the house of whenever they were playing hot and cold. Yeah. I really liked those. Nice. It was like long shots going through, and it was like the camera was passing through each door and stuff, following Elise. Yeah. And it was cool. I liked that. Really nice cinematography. Yeah. And the use of the camera. And then it's funny that we're also talking about how she said malignant as is like a very, you know, word, and then James Wan obviously has that movie Malignant, and he's still kind of attached, and there's also really cool like house shots in that movie too. Yeah, so it's just funny how it all there is. I really liked some of those shots in that film, even though the film was hella predictable, but and a little funny to me at times. Yeah. No, it was definitely comical in some aspects where I was just like, what? Maybe another of that, because it also felt like it was taking itself seriously as well. Yeah. So maybe there were some cool, maybe like, that's a common thing that action happens. Shots in it. But yeah, and we can talk about it
when we cover it.
But yeah, I couldn't. That was another thing I couldn't get past because like I was like, this is a Professor Quirrell situation, and then it was.
I didn't see it, and I should have, but I didn't pick up on that until a little bit later in the film. But I did pick up on it beforehand. Yeah, but at first I was a little confused as to what was going on.
Yeah.
But we do have then it's Lorraine and Elise in there, and they're talking, and then the door opens up.
Yeah, or
does he say, "I'll show you before"?
He says, "I'll show you before."
Right.
He stands up and he looks over his shoulder and he says, "I'll show you," and then walks over into the hallway and points to a door, and the door just slowly creaks open. And while Lorraine and Elise look on in horror, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And they both like hurry to pull him away and sit him back in the chair, being like, "Absolutely the fuck not."
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's a hard nope.
Yeah.
And then it's his mom, right? She's like, make him forget. Or no, because Elise is like, I can make him forget.
She was like, do whatever you have to.
Yeah.
Make him forget. Do whatever you need to.
Yeah.
And
which, I mean, given their circumstances and what they were dealing with, was probably not a bad option. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if what she does prevents him from traveling again.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately the issue here, was him traveling and leaving his vessel open.
Which sucks because like you have to sleep and you have to, get rest. So your options are either forgetting, or I don't know if it's possible for them to like, would it become a pro? I don't know, learn how to do it.
Yeah.
With that gift, that's, yeah. Especially when you have demons apparently trying to come after you. And we get to a title card. After all of that. Insidious.
It's the same.
Yeah. But it's chapter 2.
And then the chapter 2 part looks like it's in the further.
It's like an afterthought.
Yeah. I really wish they would have like said Insidious and then just like chapter 2.
Yeah. All together. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like went with the harsh opening.
I agree.
And then
other than
instead
what they
of
did.
what they did,
because
but it was still fine. Like I understand what they were going for. Like I think it was supposed to be in the further, but to have such a like you said, it was kind of like an afterthought.
It's almost like two title cards, and they were like, just put them both.
Yeah. They couldn't decide how they wanted to do it or something. Yeah, if it would have been like, even if it if it was going to pop up next, like chapter 2, like it did, I wish it would have still been in the same font, in the same music. Yeah, I wish they just would have kept it consistent.
I think that would have impacted a little bit more, and where I feel like I said, I don't know, it felt like it was definitely an afterthought.
Yeah,
like on doing that, but and then we get a credits scene again, kind of reminiscent to the first movie, where we have kind of like an AHS kind of title sequence with all the little names and the credits rolling on.
Yeah, less of the house being haunted this time, and more of the further,
right?
The further / some of the drawings and stuff too. Like we're seeing some of Dalton's drawings from when he was a kid again.
The I Flew Away one, right?
Yeah. Which also shows up in the next one. The red door, yeah. So they kept it consistent there. But yeah. It was just some scenes of the house and stuff as the credits roll.
And then we open up with, I like how it was like small and then you like come in big into the full frame.
Yeah.
And because it feels like an interrogation. We have Renee talking to an investigator going over the events that happened the night before. Yeah, because I believe it was already the night after. My bad. But about Elise and how she literally was murdered in their living room. And she's trying to have to explain, like, well, we were going through a possession and there was ghosts, and
one of these ghosts killed her, not my husband.
Yeah.
And whenever he was like, there are marks on her neck that will match, and we'll have forensics match it, that were made by a human. Those marks were not on her neck and any of the other things. So a little lack of consistency there.
I didn't see any of that. She was just like, she looked like a wax figure.
Yeah.
She might have been. But they're talking about all of that. And then we have her basically just kind of, she also seems like in a bit of state of shock as well, because she also is like, she wants to believe it's the ghost, but also she is kind of like, well, it could have been Josh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's that thought in the back of her mind.
Especially after seeing the picture, which we know was the Black Bride.
Yeah. And then we go through all of that, and then she's kind of then having a we're not necessarily a flashback, but we're now in what happened at the house. Remember when we left off on at the end of the first movie, and like she's looking for Josh, and he's like, I'm right here, and she turns around, and it's like, well, we get that kind of same thing repeated, but she also saw the old lady, the black lady in the camera, and she is looking at him, but he's very much like, oh my God, what happened to Elise? Oh no. He just like starts to act like he didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And then she's obviously kind of like, something's fishy. Something doesn't seem right. But they get, Lorraine takes Dalton into the other room. And then that's whenever we have, I think we just end up going through all of that, and then we have them going to the new house. And it's not really a new house, it's Lorraine's house.
Yeah, they're
Mom's
staying
house
at Grandma's house for a bit, while things kind of die down at their house while the police are investigating.
Which is a
their
cute
house.
way to bring it back too, obviously from the intro, and then now we're at the house that was in 1986.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we get immediately we've get stuff happening in the house. Like we've got Renee walking around, and all of a sudden we hear this piano kind of plunking and playing, and
Renee is also just looking like she's been through it.
Yeah,
she is, poor thing, like having her husband try to kill her and the kids, and then like Elisa's
that
dead.
hasn't happened yet.
Oh shit, my bad. But they're all getting blurred together.
Premonition. She knows it's gonna happen.
Yeah. But also just everything they went through in the last movie. But then like Elise ended up being dead, and then you have to like the cops being into it, and then you have to explain to people that probably think you're crazy like about ghost, and that's just a lot.
Kind of like in Smile.
Oh yeah. And especially when people don't believe you and you feel like you're not being heard, that's like the worst part.
Yeah,
I feel like
feels like you're crazy.
Exactly.
And just grasping at straws, trying to get people to believe even an ounce of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And clearly this detective was not hearing what she was saying at all. But she's walking around the house. She hears this piano playing, and she recognizes the tune as well. But we don't realize that yet. But I recognize the tune a bit.
Yeah.
Once we heard it, I think the second time it was playing, I was like,
this is a consistent same song.
Yeah. And then I was like, I think this is something that was in the first one. But I wouldn't have caught that had we not just watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she ends up, because it's weird, and she ends up going into the piano room, and it's on the radio.
Yeah, I was like, oh, JK, just the radio.
But also, who turned on the radio, right?
Yeah, it could have been already just running, and she only just then like took a second to like breathe and then realized it was playing.
Maybe, but it was all.
I mean, it probably was paranormal, but there is a rational way to explain it.
Yeah. And so then she ends up checking on Miss Callie, I believe.
Yeah, Callie had fallen out of her crib.
That's right.
She gets up there and she hears
the piano again.
Yeah. And that's another scary thing of having babies is when they can start climbing out of their crib.
Yeah.
Yikes. But I mean, obviously I think this was supposed to be a paranormal force pulled her out of the crib, but still that's a very real thing that does happen is kids, unless it's all paranormal, and babies can't actually climb.
They can't. It's all ghosts. It's all
every
spirits
single
trying to take
ghost
your child.
Baby happen.
That's because the parents made a deal that they didn't honor.
Yep.
It's probably one of them. No. And so she hears that piano again, so she goes back downstairs, and she's expecting to see the radio on again, but the radio's not on. And so then she just like goes to the piano and closes the piano key lid thing, the cover.
Yeah. And it was this time that you could hear the song more clearly. And that's when I was like, this sounds familiar. But I couldn't quite exactly place what it was. I just was like, this song is familiar.
And then we have after all of that happening, I think this is when she tries to tell Josh, right?
I don't know. My next note
Or is it
says
her mom?
2 idiots find the video of Josh as a boy.
That's Specs and Tucker. Yeah. I think because right before that, I'm sorry, it's because she does bring it up to Josh, and then he's like being like, "Nah, you didn't hear that. The baby falls out of the crib. It happens. It can happen."
Yeah,
and
he did try to
I was like,
explain
I
it
need
away.
us to move on. Like, I need you to like calm down. Essentially, like you're crazy.
He was gaslighting her.
Mm-hmm. And then Specs and Tucker are at Elise's place, her house, and obviously Elise is dead. That was their mentor, I guess their employer as well. So they end up kind of going through the house a little bit, but then a door opens and they're like, Elise never left the reading room unlocked. So they end up going down there.
Yeah, and it's a pretty cool room.
And then
it looks like it would be a spiritual reading room.
Yeah,
they really did it up in a kitschy way, but whatever, it was still cool.
Very like crystal ball
Psychic.
in the middle. Yeah, psychic reading. And so Elise had a hustle. That's probably what that meant. And so then
we saw the stupid mask in the corner too, from the first one, movie, which I thought was dumb. And they're sitting on a very creepy mannequin.
Well, what this room gave me was the inception of an idea of. It gave me the room from The Conjuring, even though that's already its own thing and they were taking from real life things. But like it gave me like how all the stuff in there is like evil or something, or like tainted by someone, and she kept it in a room.
You mean like their museum?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Ed and Lorraine's Warren's museum.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it kind of gave down in there, just kind of all these odd things and stuff. And then we have this old, like freaking old TV that comes on, and it's just a like static screen, and they're like, and then Tucker, who ends up like going into the closet because he's fumbling around and it's dark, ends up knocking stuff over and some VHS tapes, and he just happens to see one and pick it up, and it's Josh's interview.
Yep. And so they turn it on and they watch this video of Josh as a boy, and whenever Josh stands up to say, "I'll show you," they realize that there's something in the back corner of the room, and they're like, who is he talking to? And so they pause and lighten the frame eventually. But you can kind of see the outline of someone standing there whenever they pause it.
Yeah, like a spirit. Something.
And then they'll pause and lighten it later. And
it'll have a lot to do with the movie and the plot and explanation, and also gives me a lot of questions as well about the further and how time travel.
I think in the further and paranormal realms, there's no
time doesn't exist, right?
Time is not linear.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think time is irrelevant, and you can just do whatever you want and pop around. That's why, like, I feel like a lot of like ghosts and spiritual entities get trapped in time. And especially if it's like an echo or a what's the word?
I don't know.
Whenever they're not active, but
it's like sexually?
What?
Just kidding.
No. Whenever they're
like a ghost is like dormant almost.
Yeah, they're just replaying things,
and like on a loop.
Yeah, replaying like their incident. There's a specific word for it.
Gotcha.
But I can't.
I pick up what you're putting down.
And they're just sitting there doing it on a loop, and I feel like time just doesn't really exist in the paranormal realm.
Yeah.
And if it can span, like if you're seeing like a 19th century or let's say 16th century ghost or something, in present day, and it's just doing whatever it wants. Who knows? Maybe you could be watching a echo of it happening in real life, like the actual thing, and time's just slipping through, and it's not actually a ghost at all, but you're watching the event actually take place. And then there's just like a little wrinkle in time.
That's a whole nother movie.
Yeah, it really is. It's called A Wrinkle in Time.
A Wrinkle in Time. And Oprah in it.
Is Oprah in it? I'm
not sure. No, but yes, there's a whole perplexity to all of that. But in this situation, it does come into play here a little later. And after they end up having this little revelation of like, oh, who is he talking to? We instantly go to Lorraine waking up in the middle of the night. And I love how they have like she fell asleep at her boudoir, I guess, and then like Dracula is playing or something, some scary movie's playing in the TV, and so she turns it off, and then she goes to check on the boys, and this is whenever she goes to Dalton, and he like very creepily is just like, Grandma, there's someone standing behind you.
Yeah. She was like asking him questions, and he was like, Grandma, and she was like, yes, and he was like, there's someone standing behind you.
Very scary.
And then that is creepy. And she just turns around and is like, what is going on? No one was obviously there.
No.
But in Dalton's mind, and in the further, there was
some lady we'll see later,
who will meet a lot.
And so she ends up like being like, okay, we'll just go to sleep, I love you, and then walks out, and then that's whenever we have she's walking around, and then the baby roller thing goes off. Because
she bumps into it.
Is it because she bumps into it?
I think she bumped into it.
I thought it was paranormal for a second.
The mom later on,
it's paranormal,
Renee has it
roll out. Yeah.
But I think this time she bumped into it,
and it just went off.
I think it was supposed to be like a little jump scare. And then as she's like trying to get it to turn off and stuff, we see something pass the door, and then she goes into the hallway, and we see this ghost lady in a white dress completely pass the door, and she's all like, Renee, is that you? And starts chasing after the ghost. Which is dumb.
Because obviously Renee wouldn't answer back. And obviously Renee wouldn't be doing that right now.
And Renee's probably not sleeping in a white nightgown that's to the floor, long flowy white dress. But she gets to the bathroom after she kind of chases this thing around, and she's kind of like washing her face or messing with her contacts or something to be like, what the hell? Like, what is happening? And then looks in the mirror, and all of a sudden the lady's behind her. She just kind of shows up there, and she turns around to look at her in person, and I'm thinking she sees her there. In actuality,
I think she does too. But then that door starts closing on her. And then that's whenever she goes back to the door and she wants to open it, and then when she does, Josh is fucking there in the doorway. Josh is there, and he is gaslighting his mom now. He's telling her that she can't say anything because he does not want his wife and children to freak out. Which obviously is not the case.
She's like, you didn't see anything, we can't have them thinking these things, so you saw nothing. And she was like, oh, you know what, you're probably right. And I was like, bitch, no, you just saw what you saw. Like, how are you going to just sit there and be like, that was nothing? I don't know. I was like, damn, Lorraine, come on. You got more backbone than this.
I feel like too, though, she definitely knows something's up though. And I know she thinks like she has to play along at least for now.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
I love smoothies, but I don't love smoothie bar prices. With my BlendJet 2 portable blender, I can make smoothie bar quality beverages for a fraction of the price.
BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita on the beach.
Yum.
It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go.
I do love that feature about it. It is rather nice.
It does, and it stays pretty quiet.
What color did you get?
I got black because it matches the color of my soul.
Perfect. I got pink because if my whole life could be pink, it would be.
We love pink.
It matches my water bottle perfectly.
It sure does.
Yeah. So whenever I carry both, I feel very aesthetic.
That's
I'm like,
nice.
yay, got me a nice pink BlendJet 2, looking real cute. And it's really yummy with my good smoothie in it. So what are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use promo code
BOO12
to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code
BOO12
to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping.
Shop today and get the best deal ever.
Did you know you could be putting oil and chemicals in your coffee? I love coffee creamer, but I don't think I've ever turned the bottle around to actually see what's inside. When I did, I found out many of my favorite creamers contain ingredients I would never intentionally add to my coffee cup, like canola oil, dipotassium phosphate, ew, and artificial flavors. Laird Superfood all started when big wave surfer Laird Hamilton needed morning fuel that could allow him to spend the entire day chasing the ultimate wave. He couldn't find anything in the market that met his ingredient standards, so made himself the ultimate plant-based creamer. Laird Superfood started and launched its first product, Original Superfood Creamer, in 2015. Laird Superfoods contain no artificial flavors, colors, or additives, and no sugars from highly refined corn syrup. All Laird products are sustainably sourced and thoroughly tested to ensure that you're incorporating the cleanest, finest fuel into your routine. All Laird products are also made of all-natural whole food ingredients, and they are crafted from the highest quality all-natural real food ingredients. Are you ready to feel more energized, focused, and supported? Go to lairdsuperfood.com and add nourishing plant-based foods to fuel you from sunrise to sunset. Use our promo code BOO at checkout to save 15% off your purchase today. Are you tired of the same old boring puzzles? Mix things up with Wongo puzzles. Each puzzle is a custom design with intricate patterns and whimsical shapes that will keep you engaged for hours. Plus, their eco-friendly materials and commitment to sustainability make Wongo puzzles a guilt-free way to unwind. Wongo puzzles are 100% wooden puzzles, meaning they'll last forever. Each piece is hand-drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun, whimsy pieces as you work through it. They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. With stunning design and unique shapes, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. So what are you waiting for? Go to wongopuzzles.com and pick your puzzle today. And be sure to use the promo code BOO and get 10% off of your order. This is the most fun you've had with the puzzle guaranteed or your money back. Go to Wongo, WONGO, puzzles.com and use the code BOO to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. Wongo.
Did you know that dehydration is the leading cause of daytime fatigue? I was shocked to learn that even mild dehydration can cause headaches, muscle weakness, and brain fog. But luckily, there's a solution. Cure! Cure Hydration is an oral rehydration solution that contains the perfect balance of electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb water and rehydrate quickly. The formula is made with all natural ingredients like coconut water, powder, and pink Himalayan salt, and is free from artificial flavors, sweeteners, and preservatives. Cure Hydration is vegan, gluten-free, and non-GMO, making it a great option for anyone with dietary restrictions or preferences. The packets are convenient and easy to use. Just mix with water and drink. They're perfect for on the go, travel, or anytime you need a quick and effective hydration boost. Hydration is more than just drinking water. That's what Lauren Picasso, a lifelong endurance athlete, discovered as she struggled to stay hydrated no matter how much water she drank. Lauren founded Cure, a science-backed electrolyte drink mixed to make hydrating easy for everyone. Cure believes that hydration should be simple and effective, but also clean and natural. That's why they use only the highest quality plant-based ingredients and avoid any artificial or harmful additives. They're committed to transparency and honesty. All of their ingredients are clearly listed on their website and packaging, and they're always happy to answer any questions or concerns. Ready to combat dehydration? Try Cure today and feel the difference for yourself. Use code BOO for 20% off your order.
So it's the next day, and Josh and Foster are playing and outside, and it seems when Renee comes in to talk to Dalton, he's totally bummed. Like, he seems like he's not being himself. And so they start to talk about it, and she asks him what's going on, and he tells her that he had a bad dream. And he ends up telling her about how Grandma came into the room last night, but there was someone behind her, and he heard these voices in the hallway. And when he went out to check on it, he saw Josh talking to someone that wasn't there, and it concerned him. And so she ends up also gaslighting Dalton and being like, it was just a bad dream. Like, Daddy is fine. Everything's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's definitely caught on that something's wrong with Josh already. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, is Daddy okay? Like, is everything all right with Dad? And then cue Dad coming in, creepy AF, right into the doorway. And he's like, I'm going to take the boys to school.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so menacing the way that he was standing there
already.
And it was like he had been listening to everything and was just like watching them like a creep and like someone who's manipulative and controlling would do.
Up to no good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have cut to Lorraine with Specs and Tucker. She goes over to them because Right. She's already talking to them about like, whatever followed us, whatever was, happening to us at this house, it's followed us here. It's not over. It's still messing with us. And so that's whenever they get to show her the footage of whenever Josh was young again, because they ended up doing, I don't know what the word is called, but they like switched it from VHS to digital, right?
Yeah, they digitized it.
And so they were able to like do, this editing and
raise the exposure and stuff on it to where you could actually see in the darkness behind him, and you see old Josh. You see Josh as he is now, as Patrick Wilson, and the background of little Josh's video. And it's like
they're very confused at this point. Yeah. And they're like, how could that be possible? And she's like, if only Elise were here to help us. And I love how even Specs and Tucker were like, that might be possible.
Yeah.
Like, we're dealing with ghosts here. Yeah.
Maybe we could talk with her.
And so at this point, that's whenever I think we do switch over to we're back with Renee, and she's doing laundry and stuff like that. And she gets a phone call from the forensics, and that's whenever the detective gets to tell her that it was not a match to Josh. And so that kind of gives her some relief. But instantly, I think after we start to get off of this phone call, that's whenever the baby starts.
That's when the toddler chair thing rolls out on its own.
Yes.
And it just like rolls out into the hallway playing and stuff. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
Fuck that. And fucking Renee just goes and is like, oh, let me check this out. And it's like, God damn it, bitch. Haven't you learned anything? Stop investigating.
Yeah.
Like,
walk out of the house now.
Yeah. I would have been like, the moment I saw that, I would have been like, nope. I'm good. I think I'll leave now. I think I'm going to get the fuck out of here until somebody else gets home. And I'm getting Callie. And we're going to go shopping all day.
I wouldn't left Callie.
Yeah.
Just go.
I forgot Callie was there for a second.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, I would have just left. But then I remembered Callie was there. And
yeah, because we
would have gone back for her.
See her in just a moment. That she ends up seeing the lady in white again in the living room, and she's just sitting there very menacingly, not like, facing away towards her, singing her row your boat lullaby. And that's whenever we do hear she grabs the baby monitor, right? Because then the singing starts coming from Callie's room.
Baby monitor. Yeah, because then all of a sudden you hear merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream.
And so we go up to Callie's room, but the door is locked, unfortunately. And so Miss Renee is obviously freaking out, and you kind of you start to hear the baby scream, and it sounds like someone's slapping her.
Yeah, yeah. You hear it say, "Don't you dare," and slap, and you hear Callie just like wailing.
Yeah. And
the musical cue as Callie started crying over the monitor was a little much. It was like ding. Which I was like, we already know that something creepy's happening. Yeah. You don't have to tell us.
Well, the whole movie does rely heavily on those like strings. Yeah. I think what was it? I saw was it in the fun fact where it said the
33 violins 33? Were used. Yeah.
That's so much. And
it is a lot. Lots of different.
And it's slapped throughout the entire movie.
It sounds like it should have been made by that water phone thing. What's
water phone?
It's what they use to make a lot of actual horror movie sounds.
Oh, okay.
I have a video of it. I took a video of Kenny using it because he's got one at the school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And it was cool. He showed it to me. And I was like, that's awesome. That's how it makes all the like
weird noises.
Yeah.
With water.
Yeah, it's got water inside of it, and it like moves it around, and it's got these like spikes, like spire kind of things on it that you can like play. You can like run like a mallet down it, and it will do like wind chimey kind of sounds.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat.
It's versatile. And so we have Callie then the door opens up eventually.
Yeah, Renee finally gets in.
And she's able to get in there, but Callie is fucking missing. She's not where she's supposed to be.
Is gone.
And this is whenever Renee is like freaking out. I believe she runs back downstairs. She's looking for Callie. And then that's whenever she runs into the lady in white again.
And the ghost bitch slaps her.
The fuck out of her. Sends her flying.
And says, don't you dare.
And she even breaks the chair as she falls down on it, right?
Yeah,
like
a table or chair or something. She landed on a piece of furniture and it broke.
Yeah.
And she was knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
She was out for a while until
had to been hours.
Josh came home, right? It was Josh who found her.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And so before that happens, we do have Carl coming to talk to the gang. They want to use Carl to contact Elise, and so I love how they sit down in the table reading room, whatever, and he's like pulls out his dice and he's like, "This is how I talk to the dead."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
It felt very D&D.
And I was like, this is such a step down from fucking Elise. Like,
yeah.
I was like, all right, but go off. I guess we'll find out. Especially since it's like, I would just see, like, I guess it's divine, so, or what, spiritual intervention, but like, you could just see any word and then people would be like,
yeah,
right.
I felt like it would very much, especially the first couple of times when nothing was happening. I was like, I feel like you can just, it really allows for the human imagination to see what it wants to see.
Yeah. Well, I even wrote in my note, I'm like, oh, he's a fucking dud.
Yeah.
Poser. But yeah, no, we eventually, even though it's like not catching on just quite yet, he ends up throwing his dice at one point, and then all the lights go out in the room, and then like just the candles are on, and there's like a little wind that comes in there. And so I think it's Specs who wants to get up and like check on things, but I love how Carl's like, do not break the circle.
Yeah.
Which, side note, we didn't get to mention it last episode, but we did learn after the fact, unfortunately, that Specs is played by Leigh Whannell. Whannell. However you pronounce his last name.
Leigh W.
Leigh W. Yeah. And so he ends up, staying. And so then we actually start getting contact with some spirit who we think is Elise. And Carl was like, who killed you? And it's just like, she did. And then that's whenever he starts to ask, like, what does she want? And we get the word kill because Tucker sees it in the die. And that's whenever it's like, it keeps going. Where is she? And we get the word hiding. And then we get a final dice thrown, and it's deciphered to be Our Lady of the Angels Hospital, which
where Lorraine used to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just says like Lady of Angles or something. And then everyone's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Until Lorraine's like, it's Our Lady of the Angels. It's a hospital I used to work at.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone was like, oh.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's whenever Josh ends up coming back to the house, and he finds Renee. He picks her up, puts her on the couch.
Sniffs her.
Which is really weird.
Really weird. I was like, ew. Josh sniffing Renee.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, but definitely adding to the fact that there is a creepy ghost inside of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And very quickly, this movie moves very fast. We are at the hospital. Where
it didn't drag as long as the first one did, in my opinion. More exciting things were happening the whole time. Because whenever I did pause it, I was like, oh, there's only 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff.
Like the last time.
And
where I
hated
went,
that first
dear
one.
God.
And so we're at the hospital. It's abandoned. Obviously, it's run down. At least this wing of the hospital is. And so Carl has he's going through it. They're going through all the rooms, and then Carl has a sense as he's going into one room, and he's like, okay,
it's like a little premonition.
Yeah, it's got to be this one. This is the vibes. And then Lorraine walks in, and she's like, ooh, I remember this room. It was an ICU.
Yeah, because they ask her what this room used to be, and she was like, yeah, it was an ICU. And then she's like, I remember it well. And she ends up talking about this patient named Parker, who was in the room and was in, it seems like kind of like a little coma like Dalton was in.
Yeah.
Whenever they were talking about it. But then we flash back to her being, young and walking around with a young Josh, and they're walking through the hospital, and it's like, I guess, bring your kid to work day or something. Because he's there, and she specifically tells him not to touch anything, and then the first thing he does is go and touch the fucking monitor thing, and all of a sudden Parker's sitting up and
looking
like
at him.
looking at him, and then grabs him and is like, wah. And Josh is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and they have to pull them apart, and then she starts like consoling Josh, and then we segue to her. She says like, the last time I saw him, and we see him coming into an elevator with her, and she's kind of surprised. She's like, hey Parker, you're supposed to be in bed, like you're not supposed to be out, what are you doing? And he is not responding to her at all,
and he looks like he's just in a trench coat, like he looked like he would be just naked.
Yeah, and also
under
like
that trench coat, like a flasher.
That should have been weird as well to her. Like, why aren't you in your hospital gown and with the like
little thingy? Yeah, because there's no way you should be off of your
IV bag monitor.
IVs, yeah.
And so then he ends up just kind of walking into whatever that was. It's like darkness, and then she walks away. Also, why is this hospital so dark?
They're always so dark.
Yeah, she walks to the front lobby, and they're like, she's like, hey, can you tell me why patient from 3 is out of his bed? And then they're like, excuse me, homegirl, he died
yesterday morning. He jumped
to his death
and killed himself.
And then she's like, no, he didn't. I just saw him. And then
I just rode with him on the elevator. And the nurse was genuine, like rightly so, like
spooked. She's like, no, you didn't. What? And so that's whenever we do have then coming back to in the real life. I love how they asked like, wait, why was he even here in the first place? And then she's like, he tried to castrate himself.
Yeah.
I was like, that was out of pocket for me.
I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, damn, a little bit, but I mean, it makes sense because we end up later figuring out stuff, but like it was just kind of seemed bizarre and out there. But yeah, we end up coming back to the house and we're with Josh, and he is in the mirror looking at himself, checking himself out, and he's not doing too hot.
No, he's starting to look rather haggard and old, and he pulls a tooth out of his mouth.
The body is basically rejecting the spirit that's inside of it right now, so it's like dying.
And then from behind him in like the shower, we have ghost lady saying he must kill them or he's gonna waste away, basically. She's like, kill them all.
And she says, your dead soil is killing his living skin.
Yeah.
Oh,
soul.
No, your dead soul. My phone once again changed soul to soil. But she ends up being like, you need to kill them. He's kind of giving like vibes of like, no, I don't want to do that, but he's not trying that hard. And they end up back at the hospital finding Parker Crane's records and then getting his information on where he lived.
Yep. And then they break into his house. They break into his old house, and which was like, that I guess was the obvious next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they break into his house and they're going through, and this is where we get a lot of those first person POV shots.
Yeah.
The shaky cam, and it even glitches at one point and I was like, oh, this feels like a weak attempt at some found footage.
Yeah,
it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't like, I mean, it was like, okay, pick a genre.
Yeah. I think they were definitely mixing some stuff in there.
I didn't mind it,
especially with, I feel like you said earlier, when they had the VHS tapes and the like stuff, I feel like they were trying to lean in more into that vibe as well.
Yeah.
But they are going through the house. They're basically exploring, also trespassing, breaking and entering. And so we end up seeing like some really, like we end up going to Parker's room.
And before we broke into the house,
on Renee's and Josh's interaction.
Yeah, Renee plays the song that she heard. She was like, I keep hearing this song, and he was like, Josh was like, okay. And she was like, you don't know this song? And he was like, no, why would I know this song? Basically. And she was like, it's my song, the one I wrote for you. And he was like, quickly changes the subject. And he's like, the song's not the issue here. The issue is that someone's in our house.
Yeah.
And goes and gets the bat and stuff. And that's when Renee's like,
just gonna test vibes.
Yeah. Something's not right here. There's no way Josh wouldn't have known this song.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And so we're, and then going back to what's happening in the house, we end up going and finding Parker Crane's room, which has like these horses and like has a dollhouse. And I love how even, what is it, Specs or something? He's like, this room seems a little too girly to be like a little boy's room.
Yeah, because Tucker immediately was like, this must be Parker Crane's room. Yeah. And I was like, first off, Parker Crane was an old man.
Yeah.
So I was like, this doesn't seem like an old man's room. This seems like a little kid's room. But I mean, who knows? He must have lived in that. I guess he lived in that room
his whole time. They lived in that house the whole time.
Yeah.
He could have had another separate room, but like he never touched his childhood room. Probably maybe too traumatic for him to walk into.
Yeah.
And so that's whenever we have a child sitting on the bed. It looks like a little girl. And she yelled.
And it was pretty creepy how
we got the camera shot of it.
Like I liked that, how we could see them behind it, and then they both started backing up into it, and I was like,
she's right there, guys.
Yeah, I was like, y'all better turn around. Come on. And then I was like, y'all are gonna freak when you look at this video footage later. I almost wished they wouldn't have interacted with her
at that point,
that they like would have just found it on the footage later and then freaked out.
Kind of like a moment whenever in the first movie they were looking at the footage of Dalton and then they saw the lipstick devil demon.
Yeah,
on
lipstick
him.
demon behind him.
Yeah.
That would have been kind of cool. But they do interact with him, and because Specs is like, shit, turn around, and they turn around, and
we get this. This is my room from the child.
Yeah. And all the rocking horses started going at once. Before that too. Like, so paranormal things started happening, and they rightfully got spooked, and the little kid rushed past, and then all of a sudden that's when she is behind him.
And then I love how she's like, you can't be in here. If she sees you, she'll make me kill you.
Yeah.
And they're just like, nope, walk out of the room. Because they're like, we ain't gonna mess with that. And
they're like, okay, sounds good.
Bye. And so then that's whenever we do move over to I think it's nighttime, right? Because then something is we're with Dalton and he's like trying to sleep, and him and Foster are in the room, and then he's like getting called by that little can phone thing that the people make.
phone can.
Is that what
can
it's called?
Line.
Did you ever make one of those when you were little? Did it work?
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
The sound waves like travel, the vibrations and everything, I think, travel through the string, and now it's supposed to be taut, like
tight, right? Yeah.
And then that's how it works. You can't have just a loosey-goosey string, which at first the string was loosey-goosey here. So, but it's a paranormal entity coming through. So
obviously not Foster.
Yeah, it comes and it is able to work. But yeah, it was really creepy whenever he was like, Foster, go back to bed. And then the voice was like, I'm not Foster.
And Dalton's eyes just get wide, and then the poor like little young Dalton actor boy, like he really sells the like fear when he's like trying to be like, Foster, wake up.
Yeah, he's like, please wake up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the closet doors open, and we get the string pulling tight, and then it's like standing there for a second, and then this woman rushes out of the closet, right?
Yeah, she's a young woman. She runs out. She like starts to like run to the front door of the room, and then is just standing there kind of crouched-ish, not looking toward or like you can't really see her face. And then she looks up, and then that's whenever she ends up telling him like like help me. She's basically like pleading for her life, pleading
for help, and saying like, don't let him get me or something like that, and help me. And then all of a sudden all of the ghosts are in there. Yeah.
Attacking him while he's under his sheets.
And he was in the further, we found out, because all of a sudden it was like in that gray tone, and he like quite literally jumps back into his body and is screaming for help when mom comes up, and the ghosts bled into the real world because the sheets were all ripped up and stuff like that, which was pretty scary.
Yeah, poor Dalton, and she has to console him for a little bit because he's obviously freaking out, and she's like, it's just once again just being like, it was just a bad dream, it's just a bad dream. And then that's whenever we cut to Josh talking to someone in the piano room. It's not showing us who, and then he's just basically like, the shadows are your home now, you can keep trying, but she's not gonna hear you or something. And then that's whenever we
realize he's talking to Josh,
the real Josh, in the further, and we just get him like screaming at the piano for help, which sucks for Josh.
It does, but that was a cool scene, and I liked that. I thought that was pretty interesting how they had that interaction between the two Joshes.
And how even Parker Crane, like, even though he's in the real world, can tell like he's there.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty ballsy move on Parker Crane's part, I would say. And so at this point, we are back at Parker's house, and this is whenever we have Carl start to mess with his dice, and he's trying to ask questions. I think at this point he starts to realize like, oh shit, this isn't a fucking Elise, because he starts to be like, wait, you're not Elise. And at the whole time we get like, there's a screw unscrewing from the chandelier above him in the living room, and the spirit I think, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen yet, but the spirit at this point, because he is trying to ask questions, as Lorraine walks by, she looks at a painting that is the white lady in white, and then a young Parker Crane, painted as a little girl,
as Marilyn,
yes. And the chandelier almost falls on her, but Carl saves her. And then this is the point when he starts to think like, oh shit, this isn't Elise, because she wouldn't try to kill us.
And he rolls the dice, and it says something like Mors, and which I guess is Latin for death,
mother of death.
And then he rolls it again, and it says mother of Morris or something like that, and it says mother of death. He was like, it literally translates to mother of death. And then the chandelier collapsed, and then they're like here knocking on the wall, right? Yeah. It's through the bookshelf.
Yes, and that's whenever Tucker goes up and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute! Like this bookshelf is fake."
Yeah, it's like a hollow wall on the other side, and he starts knocking on it, and things knock back, and so then they decide to investigate and open the door, and holy shit, they find a bunch of dead bodies. Yeah, it was pretty creepy with all of them just sitting there. And I was like, oh, this one felt like it had more of an actual storyline to it, too.
Than the first one.
Yeah,
I can see that,
in my opinion.
There's more plot there.
Yeah, and so...
And it kept thickening.
Yeah, like I was like, oh. And I liked how it was tying back into the first one with like Josh talking to old Josh and stuff like that. And then they even elaborate more on it in the Red Door, which I liked a lot, too. They were able to tie it together. It didn't make me appreciate the first movie more, but it made I liked that they called back to the first movie in general. But
felt
yeah,
more cohesive.
Yeah. And so, yeah, there's just a bunch of dead bodies there, and there's like sheets. At least like 20 of them or something. 15, I think, is what the number they said. And they find this like box of newspaper clippings that all are about the bride in black. And then that's when they figure out that basically that bride in black who they saw hunting Josh as a kid was Parker, and Parker wore the dress to commit his murders, because there was like a mannequin there that had the black dress on with the black veil and everything, and he was like, Parker wore this.
Yeah, because he touched it, doesn't he? Carl does. Yeah, and that's when he gets like all that glimpse of all the horrible things that Parker Crane would do to his victims, which is pretty horrific, and also pretty what's the word, sadistic, that he would even like as well, which I guess most serial killers do, don't they? Like he like keeps like all the
trophies.
Well, one, he did have the bodies in there, so that's one thing. But I mean, like even the news clippings and all that stuff about him and everything.
Because a lot of the times, like the Zodiac and stuff, they just wanted recognition, and they wanted to be talked about, and that's why they do it a lot of the times.
And so,
and also they're mentally unstable.
And we also get this line that he killed for his mother, because his mother essentially was kind of, I guess, the driving force behind what was causing him to be so fucked up.
Yeah, said his mom forced him to.
Yeah.
And
at this point, we didn't come over to Renee is getting home, and she's about to go into the house because I guess she went to go drop off the boys. That's right, with someone, caretaker, some babysitter, Jessica. And Lorraine is like, "Don't go back into the house. Like there is something wrong."
She was like, "It's not the house, it's Josh. So we need to get the fuck out of here." She was like, basically, do not go in there at all. And she was like, I was just gonna, and she was like, nope, get back in the car.
Let's go.
We're leaving right now. And so that's what they do. They leave, and Lorraine starts explaining how the plan's gonna work. Yeah. And what they're gonna do basically to capture Josh and get Josh back to being actual Josh and not this fake ghosty Josh.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cockamamie, like, I don't know how to say that word. Cockamamie plan, because I'm like, you're gonna try to sedate
I don't think
ghost?
that was the right way to say it.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
You're gonna try, because the whole plan is Carl, Tucker, and Specs, they're getting ready. Carl is gonna go in and basically sedate Josh, but then I'm like, but it's a ghost. How do you sedate even though it's in a physical body? I don't know. I just felt a little like unthought out, which obviously we do find out later. It was very much unthought out.
Yeah, I felt like they put more thought into the code word.
You literally, yeah,
Quesadilla.
which they didn't even get to use really.
Unicorn. Except for when Carl's like getting choked out.
Literally,
and
he's like quesadilla. Literally, and also even in my notes, oh gosh, so we'll get to it, but yeah, she's telling him the plan, and I love how Renee is just like, okay, yeah, sure. That's fine. But we do cut over to Carl then getting to the house, and he ends up knocking on the door so he can talk with Josh after we get that whole, quesadilla bit and them coming up with a safe word. And as he's in there talking with Josh, he starts to notice, well, one, Josh is also like, he seems like he's on edge, and then he ends up seeing a tooth that fell out on the floor, and so he does this like thing where he puts his foot over and like tries to pick it up all sly, and at this
knocks his glasses off the table and stuff too, and acts to pick them up, and then picks the tooth up at the same time.
Yeah, and so Josh ends up asking him if he wants something to drink, and so Carl is like, oh yeah, I'll take some water. So at this point Josh goes to do that, and this is whenever Carl decides to get the syringe ready so he can sedate Josh, but
not super sneakily.
Not at all. And then Josh comes back out and he's like, what you got there? And Carl is just like, nothing, like, and then that's whenever I think Josh is like, you should ask your dice what I have behind my back or something like that. Yeah,
he says, oh, I thought you maybe were playing with your dice.
Yeah, that's
and he was like, Mother said that that you're really good with your dice. And he was like, oh, I wasn't aware that y'all spoke today.
Yeah.
And then he says, you should ask your dice because then that's when Carl looks at him and says, like, what do you have? What do you have behind your back? And that's when he says, you should ask your dice what I have behind my back.
Yeah.
And he says, he starts asking, and then he says, what does Parker Crane have behind his back? And
Josh's face
drops from this creepy smile that he had and comes back, and he's like, rah.
And I love too, this whole time in my notes, I'm also like, Specs and Tucker are listening into this conversation. Where the fuck are they? Because this obviously sounds a bit like it's about to go somewhere really bad. And maybe if they would have gotten there sooner, granted, probably they wouldn't have been much help. But I feel like it could have been handled better.
Yeah. Like if they were, what's the point of them listening in if they're only going to wait until safe word is said?
Yeah, literally, when you can pick up on all the other cues.
Yeah, exactly. So they should have gotten in there sooner, but eventually they do figure it out, and they're like, oh shit, let's get in there. Mm-hmm. And they do get in there, and they start fighting with Josh, and Specs immediately gets knocked out. Knocked down.
My bad. Specs does. And then that's whenever Tucker tries to come in and try to overtake Josh, but then Josh ends up sedating fucking Tucker.
Yeah, and Tucker falls onto Specs.
Yeah.
And Specs obviously can't get him off.
Yeah, because he's just too much weight for him.
Yeah.
And then
there was a decent size difference between them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then that's whenever we have it kind of just going black, and then that's whenever we're cut to Josh waking up Carl in the further. And at this point we have them kind of talking to each other, catching up. Carl's, being like, I know I've known you since you were young. And then that's whenever they start to go through the house, and I believe Elise pops up pretty quickly.
Yeah. And at first they're going through, there, and there was that thing where he's like, he's got your baby.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
That guy's like, he's got your baby. Mm-hmm. And he's got your baby. And he looked really funny.
He did. He looked like a little frog man.
Yeah, he did. And then we see that it was Josh who was banging on the door in the first film.
Yeah.
Which was cool. Whenever they were up there upstairs and Josh yet again was trying to tell Renee like, oh, it was probably just interference and stuff on the baby monitor. And she was like, no, it felt really real. And then all of a sudden they heard someone knocking on the door and he goes downstairs to check and no one's there. And we thought it was like something creepy, but turns out it was actually Josh in the further trying to save Renee in the present and stuff like that. So that was cool. I liked how that tied back in. I was like, oh, that was neat.
And it was him who went through the door and all of that, set off the alarms.
Makes it a lot less scary too.
And yeah, it does. And then at this point, that's whenever we get to see all that happen. And then is that where Carl is asking for Elise, or something happens? Something happens to bring back Elise. I don't remember.
I just wrote, oh, Elise comes back.
Yeah, she kind of just comes back, kind of like a savior essentially, because that's whenever they end up getting. Oh, my note says. Oh, yeah. At this point, all of that's going on, but we're back in the real world, and this is when Lorraine gets a message from Tucker saying the plan is, taking action. It's safe to come back now.
Yeah, which was obviously fake.
Yeah, it was from the possessed Josh. But then we go back, yes, with Josh and Carl looking for Elise and then the baby and all that. And then that's whenever I believe, oh, my notes. Hello.
They make it back to the Lambert house.
Yeah.
And they are basically trying to figure out, like, how can we bring this spirit out? We need to figure out where she lives. Elise is telling him that she lives somewhere in the further, and we've got to bring the spirit out and jar some of its memories in order to push it out of the vessel and bring it back to the further. But Josh was like, I don't know where this entity lives at all. And then that's when they say, maybe we're asking the wrong Josh. And then, so this is where we get Big Josh asking Little Josh, where does this entity live? And that's when he says, I'll show you, and stands up and points to the door. And Elise is like, that's what that was about.
Yeah. And I love how that's a good callback too. And then they end up going through that door, and that's when we find another red door. And this
I
is
was
the
like,
door.
oh, more red doors.
Yeah. I guess the red doors mean definitely like
just two bad entities.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I really
never
do
go
not
through
proceed.
a red door.
Yeah. And so that's
Stop.
whenever we do come back to the real world, and Renee and Lorraine come back to the house, and immediately we get Josh just attacking them. Because
Josh trying to kill everyone.
He's just trying to kill them. And then that's whenever we have Renee getting locked. Not Renee, sorry. Him and Renee are going at it, but then that's whenever he locks Lorraine. Oh, I'm getting their names. Like Lorraine locked into the restroom, like a guest bathroom, I guess, type of situation.
And he's like, I'll be back for you, mommy.
Yeah. And so at the same time,
got some hardcore mommy issues here.
Yeah. The boys are getting dropped off outside. So they're about to walk into a mess. But yeah, he essentially ends up, Renee does put up a little bit of a good fight, but he ends up fucking knocking her out or knocking her down with the, like, was it a tea kettle or something?
Yeah. Because she starts smacking the hell out of him with the pot. Yeah. And then he grabs the tea kettle and chunks it at her, and it hits her in the back of the head, and she's rendered slightly unconscious. Like, she's definitely out of it. Got to have some sort of concussion or something.
Yeah, she definitely saw stars for a second.
Yeah,
because she drops to the floor, and then at this point he gets on top of her, and that's when we get him trying to attempt to murder her and strangle her just like he did Elise, and we get her seeing him. She's like freaking out, but then it transitions.
Little Dalton comes in.
It does, but she does also see the Black Bride. Being the one strangling her, and then that's whenever Dalton comes in, and we have with Foster just screaming. Bat.
Yeah, Foster's not doing much to help, but Dalton's like, "Get the fuck back!" and hits his dad with the baseball bat. And then
we have them, poor Dalton, getting a little bit thrown, and then they like take off, and they are able to go to the basement, right? Yeah, running to the basement. And at this point, we go back to the rest of our gang, and the red door has led to Parker's house.
Parker Crane's room. And we get this scene happening between Parker and his mom, and Parker yells, "My name is Parker." And then his mom walks up and is like,
"No, it ain't.
No, it's not. Your name is Marilyn." and basically just explaining to him how good little girls need to behave and stuff, or they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no wonder he is fucked up, because this is intense.
Yeah, we see how he was very much abused as a child by his mom, and she was a psycho herself. And this is whenever, as she's having this conversation with little Parker, I was going to say Parker, but Marilyn, she notices that the rest of them are in the room. So she sends Elise and Carl out of the room, you know, spiritually. And then that's whenever Josh gets locked in there with her. And so we're back with Renee and Foster and Dalton in the basement. And that's whenever Dalton is like, Mom, like, I can go into the further and I can get Daddy Black. Okay. Oh, my bad. Daddy Black. I can get Daddy back. And that's whenever I love how she's like, no. And then he's like, I can. And she's like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
she didn't put up much of a fight. She was like, no, I almost like lost you last time.
Yeah.
And then he was like, but I can do it. And she was like, okay.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like you really cared that much. But
she tucks away Foster and gets him hidden. And that's whenever Dalton goes into a little corner and tries to go to sleep. And
which I was like,
how does he fall asleep?
Yeah, and all of these situations, like in the red door as well, he just like is like
able to doze off,
in 10 seconds, and I'm like, I could never.
I wish I could fall asleep like that. Same. And so he ends up going into the further, and I believe he finds a red door. Yeah, and then that's whenever we have we cut back to Josh, and he's in the room with a bunch of kind of like the same way as we saw all those bodies at Parker Crane's house in the base in that special room. They're like under sheets, and he's trying to find the lady, the mom. And I love how she's like, come and find me, or not find me, but she's like says something basically taunting him.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to find her. He's going through all of them, and at the same time we're back in there's so much going on. Speck starts to wake up, and he lets Lorraine out of the bathroom, and they can hear all the commotion coming from down, stairs. So they start to go that way. And then at the same time, the possessed, Josh comes and breaks through the door, not the door, but like the wall, essentially, because he can't get through the door. And that's whenever Elise starts talking to young Parker in the further, and she's trying to, get his help. And she's like, you can help us defeat her and put an end to all of this. And so this is all going on. I believe Parker Crane's little young spirit ends up leading Elise into the room that the mom ghost is in with Josh, as she's like fighting Josh and like choking Josh, right? She's like choking Josh out at this point.
Yeah, I think
the real Josh. Yeah.
And then Elise comes in with one of the rocking chairs and just starts beating the shit out of Mother of Death.
Literally.
And as she hits him, or hits the mother, the Black Bride is then sent out of Josh's body back in the real world.
Yeah.
And he's kind of rendered unconscious. And then we also see that he also was knocked out in the third one. Knocked out then in that moment too by Dalton.
Yeah, by Dalton. Yeah. Which is funny how it all ties in. Also how Dalton was the one who left the hammer there. Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes.
But then everyone, like, Dalton is in the further, and he's calling out to Josh, and then so Josh and Dalton are reunited, and basically they are able to make it back to their bodies, and they come back to their bodies, and Josh wakes up in his body, and he's like, it's me. And Renee's rightfully hesitant. She's like, no.
Last time you said it was you, it wasn't you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Said I'm right here, and it was not you that was right there.
Yeah. But we get the explanation from him. He's like, I tried to play our song. I was trying to communicate with you. And then she's like,
you're the only one who could ever play that song that badly.
Yeah. And then we get Tucker for fucking bursting in and being like, but obviously the day has already been saved. And then we go into the next day, and that's whenever we get the decision from Josh and, well, I don't know necessarily Dalton, but the family, that we want to make them forget again. We want to not be able to travel, no more sleepwalking, no more further. We want to forget this ever happened. So that's what starts happening. And then we cut to Tucker and Specs
doing
going
a house call of sorts randomly to this person's house. And they open the door and they're like, oh, we know
we have a message for Allison.
Yeah, what's happening to Allison isn't this. It's something like our leader Elise would have said is like supernatural and stuff. And then the little girl pops up and she's like, who's the lady behind y'all? And we see Elise's ghost there, and Elise is like, shh. And then Elise goes and sees something behind Allison, and she's like, Allison, and then sees something behind her, but we don't see what it is, right? Because I didn't see it.
We don't see it.
Okay.
It's making like that crackling noise, like the lipstick face demon kind of noise made whenever we would see the dark stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't know. And she's just like, oh my God. And it's the end.
Does Allison have to do with the next film?
No.
I was confused as to what Allison had to do with anything.
It's just a segue into, I guess, more that could possibly be
but Dalton and Josh aren't alone,
maybe. And then also, I mean, in the chapter 3 there is a girl that ends up being put in a wheelchair, but it's not Allison. It's a whole different storyline, and it took place before the Dalton storyline. So I don't know
which one is the last key.
Excuse me, that is the 4th one.
Okay, I think maybe that's the one I saw at the party, because I remember something happening with a key and a door having to be like physically unlocked.
That's the 4th one, the last key.
Because once I watched this one, I was like, I've never seen this before. Okay, I was like, none of this is coming back, even to my drunk mind.
Yeah.
Like that one, I just remember there being like, there was an old man demon, like an old man ghost.
Oh, maybe it could be the 3rd one.
Oh,
it could be the
maybe
third
it was
one.
the 3rd one. I don't know. I feel like I remember there being a key having to unlock something.
Well, because the 4th one is called the last key.
Yeah. I saw that today. It was suggested
Yeah.
after watching one of them, and I was like,
a heavy moment. And I guess there is an old man ghost in
the 3rd one.
In the 3rd one, heavily, yeah, which is really creepy.
It must have been the 3rd one that I saw then, though, because now as I'm thinking back, it was an old man and not an old woman that I saw.
The 3rd one came out, I want to say like 2015 or something like that.
That would have been about when I saw it.
Yeah. So yeah, but and then that little girl that opened the door with the family just now, that was Jenna Ortega, a young Jenna Ortega.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't recognize her.
But yeah, that is chapter 2 of Insidious, which is a middle to a 3-part chapter, a trilogy, I guess you would say, because we have our next part coming up with the Red Door that would be concluding the saga of the Lambert family. Overall on this story, though, I thought it was a really good continuation of the plot, the storyline. I agree with you, Caitlin, whenever you said that this one had more to it. Definitely felt like there were more layers, and I liked how we got to go even further back in time into not just now Dalton's storyline, but how Josh's storyline has affected all of this as well, and how his own astral projection intertwines with the story. And it's really cool because I feel like they did a good job, if not thinking ahead, then being able to make something work to go cohesively with the first film. And so it all seems like a really good and big project that was really had some sort of planning at least to it and was thought out a bit longevity wise. And so I liked that we got to see more of not necessarily a little boy asleep the whole movie kind of situation. There's, like you said, more action to it, more characters. We got to get, I feel like, a better, even though it kind of got split between two. Well, I guess the first one too had kind of two villains, but this is two villains that are connected to each other at least. I feel like there was a better, darker villain presence in this film, and there was a bigger battle as opposed to no really big battle happening in the first one. I was like, okay, we got him. That was easy.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool that we also got to see Elise again, even though she was dead. So somehow they were able to make her be a big player in this one as well. And I liked, what else did I like about it? I don't know. I do like these films. And I think that I like the whole, like I mentioned in the first one too, the astral projection. Now that in this one, we're introducing like time travel. Like there's a lot of really cool ideas mixing in with the horror element. I would have to say overall, I probably enjoyed this one more than the first one as well. And I would have to give this one, I'm trying to remember what I gave the first one.
A 3.8.
3.8, right? It's like, so this one definitely for me feels more in the 4, like a 4.2. 4 point. No, you know what? I'll give it a 4.5.
4.5.
I'll give it a 4.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4.5. I really enjoyed the storyline, and I really enjoyed how the character of the Black Bride as well was kind of a twist in itself, because in the first one, and I guess through the beginning of it, if you don't get ahead with yourself, you are already thinking like, well, it's some old like witchy or like lady spirit. But then we find out, nah, this is a man who is dressing up like a woman to commit serial murder.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole.
It's pretty
thing.
wild.
Yeah. So it's
horrific in real life, horrific in the afterlife.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. It just adds to the fear factor and also to the complexity of the character, which is really cool. Yeah, it was a good show. But yeah, 4.5 from me. Do you have any fun facts?
I do.
Yay.
Beep boop bop. At around 25 minutes, when Specs and Tucker analyzed the footage of young Josh, the Panasonic VCR logo has been worn away in places so that it reads Panic instead.
Oh, that's cool.
The hospital featured in the film, Linda Vista Community Hospital, has been featured in over 30 movies, mainly horror films, and many TV series, and as well as music videos. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
A majority of the film was shot inside the Linda Vista Community Hospital, which also doubles as the abandoned hospital that the characters visit. Oh. So they used that hospital for a lot of things. They were like, we got it for a day. We better use it as much as we can. There's an Australian flag in the corner of Dalton's room in the Lambert house. Leigh, Whannell, Rose Byrne, Angus Sampson, and James Wan are all Australian. However, Wan was born in Malaysia but later moved to Australia. And then at around 22 minutes, when Specs and Tucker enter Elise's house, there's an African tribal painting hanging on the wall. It's the same painting seen in Daniel's study in Paranormal Activity 2 and the grandmother's house in Paranormal Activity 3 as well.
Interesting. Yeah, because those are also James Wan's films, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then there's a director cameo at around 33 minutes on a computer wallpaper with Specs and Tucker. James Wan was there.
Yeah, I saw that one. I did see that one. Yeah.
So that's cool. That's all I got for trivia.
For fun facts.
Little fun facts.
What's your Boo rating?
Boo rating. I think I'd give this one like a 3.2 or something. Mm-hmm. It was pretty good. I liked it overall. It was a good middle of the road horror film for me. Maybe a 3.5. I liked it. I thought it had much more meat to it than the first one did. Also, just less comical special effects and stuff. It had matured a bit. Yeah. And even the banter between Specs and Tucker was a little more fitting this time than it seemed in the first one. Even
the whole, Hunter Ninja Bear.
Okay, no, I hated that.
Okay, I was like, I know Haitlin's gonna hate that.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I was like, what the fuck? Why is this important? Yeah, I forgot about that. I blocked it out of my memory because I thought it was dumb. Okay, never mind.
2.8 now.
But most of the stuff, like the quesadilla bit and unicorn,
kind of fit
like,
more.
Yeah, it fit a little bit more, and I was like, okay, at least I know that this is their characters now. I still do think of them as two bumbling idiots,
which I think that's what they wanted you to think them of.
Yeah,
but maybe not as fitting for the movie. I feel like the movie would have been more scary if we would have just had it all be serious as opposed to trying to inject a little comedy in there with the and it's not even physical comedy. It's like very much like on the nose bad humor.
Yeah.
Cheesy humor.
Yeah, it was just dumb. But overall, I thought it was definitely a better attempt at this film for the universe, and I did enjoy all of the ties that it had back to the first one, and that having watched the Red Door as well, all the ties that the Red Door has back to the second film and the first film as well. I think that's pretty cool. So I have to give them some props for how well thought out the universe is. Even if I didn't like the first one, I think they did a much better attempt this time. And it just, like I said, the film definitely matured a bit, as far as it wasn't very like kitschy ghost, like with the whole like eek and the heads turning of those two twins or whatever, the two girls. All of the apparitions and everything seemed a little bit more genuinely terrifying this go around, and weren't as cheesy or cheap. And I liked
how there wasn't as many as well.
Yeah.
It's more focused on let's have some really good ones that are scary, as opposed to having these, like, it seemed like we just had a couple extros and we put them in like
we were like
Halloween spirit costumes and made them do those things.
Like the whole scene of the family and the further being like murdered could have been omitted.
Yeah, it didn't really even add anything to the storyline. And even there's no callback in this one. At least even in this one, there was a callback to even that menacing guy, ghost, with like the who was putting his tongue all over Renee, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Because he had to fight him. And that's why Elise came back, because he was fighting it. And then Elise came in just like with her light.
Go to hell.
Yeah.
She said.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
yeah. They made callbacks to certain ghosts. And
at least the good ones,
and didn't I think maybe they realized too that family had no importance whatsoever for the original film. But overall I think this film did a lot better job, so it gets a 3.5 for me,
and a 4.5, so medium
4. I think
the Insidious Chapter 2.
Yeah, it was definitely a better attempt. I liked it a lot more.
And speaking of important families, we are in our lovely Rogue Media Network studio, who always takes good care of us. And you can listen to our show or any of their other wonderful shows at roguemedianetwork.com.
And then you can also listen to all those shows and us on a slew of podcasting platforms, but the biggest two would be
Spotify
and also Apple. But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And tell your friends. Word of mouth is huge. That is one of the best ways for us to get out there, and especially for spooky season. Like, you can watch some movies with us and listen to us talk about them, and you can join in on the discussion by reaching out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
BooBaes Podcast, and that's at BOOBAES, because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right. And until next time, you guys, we'll be talking about Insidious, the Red Door. So the third part, the third direct sequel.
Because
to this film.
There was 2 other films in between the release of the Red Door and Chapter 2, but those are different storylines, and
they're randos.
Yeah, gonna continue on with the Lambert family storyline. So until then, bye, Baes.
Bye, Baes.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.